you're listening to Mindful Mutterings with Chris Maragakis, the show for women wanting to ditch anxiety, build self-esteem and live life with confidence. So hi, this is episode 2. Thank you very much for joining me. Today we're going to talk about ways to overcome and manage anxiety. So I'm going to give you 5 key strategies that will help you to manage your feelings when you're feeling a little bit anxious or overwhelmed. And we've all felt anxious at some point in life, and it is a truly awful feeling. You know, the butterflies in the tummy, the racing heart, feeling that we can't breathe. And essentially, anxiety is caused by living in the future. It's because we're worrying about the ifs and whens and maybes, you know, the what if this happens, what if they say this, what if I embarrass myself, what if. But it's also, there's also a very strong link between anger and anxiety. And although we may not realise it, people that are prone to storing anger, you know, like we talked about in the mindfulness episode last week about how irritation, when it's not dealt with, builds to frustration, and frustration ultimately builds to anger. And when you're living with anger constantly, there's a part of your subconscious that is worrying about what would happen if you were to let go of the control that you have. If you were the damage that you could do with the things that you say and the way that you behave when you're angry and you lose that control. And so there's this constant fear that we're living with, this underlying anxiety to our life, which is quite hard to pinpoint and understand where it's coming from. So the truth of the matter is there is no way of knowing what the future is going to bring. You know, we can't control what other people do. We can't control outside events. The only thing that we can ever control is how we choose to respond to something in the given moment. And the problem with that is, because although we may understand that on an intellectual level, our brain is constantly processing all the information that we give to it, and it's constantly whirring away. And it's built on all the preconceptions that we've had growing up and all the experiences that we've had growing up. And so it's constantly showing us what could happen in an attempt to keep us in our routines and our patterns of behaviour, because that's what it's familiar with and that's how it knows to keep us safe. And so it's about understanding that we can question the way that we're feeling, and we don't have to allow these emotions to run riot through us. And we can manage our anxiety in very easy ways. The truth of the matter is, the more aware you are of where your triggers are and what's causing your anxiety, the easier it is to manage. So how do you gain control of anxiety? Well, the thing is, what happens is when we start to get anxious or we start to worry about something, worry in itself is not a bad thing. You know, worry can help us to solve a problem in the near future, you know, but if it's not managed, that worry then becomes anxiety, because what the body does is it produces some adrenaline that helps us to be motivated to sort something out. If we can't sort it out because we don't know how to, we don't have the problem solving skills, we don't have the support network, or we're not in a place where we feel able to manage what's about to happen or what we're worrying about, then that builds, and the body then produces more adrenaline, because it's putting us in a constant state of fight or flight. And that then builds and builds and builds until we actually become anxious for a lot of the time. Our default response to any kind of stress trigger becomes anxiety. And so the thing to do is, when that starts to happen, when we start to feel those emotions taking control, it's about understanding what we can do with them. So really, my first tip is to move. As soon as you start to feel that you're getting anxious and you're feeling overwhelmed and you can feel the physical symptoms starting to play out, get up from wherever you are. If you're in bed, you are not going back to sleep. Your mind is just going to go into overdrive. So get up, make a cup of tea, you know, move around, anything that you can do. Same thing if you're sitting on the sofa and you're trying to watch the telly or you're trying to do something else and your mind's whirring, you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you might as well get up and move around. Because as soon as you start to move around, the brain becomes distracted. And when it's distracted, it can't worry quite so much. And then obviously that then tells the body to stop producing so much adrenaline. The next thing to do is to distract yourself. So when you're feeling really, really anxious, this is not the time to be meditating. There is no way that you're going to be able to focus on going within. And to be quite honest, in some instances, it will actually make it worse, because you're focusing on the very thing that you're worrying about. The first thing we need to do is we need to just get everything nice and calm. So one of those ways is to distract yourself. So, when you feel this coming on, this is the ideal time that you do those jobs that you've been putting off. You go and clean something, or you organise something, or you do something that you wouldn't normally do that is fairly mindless. You don't have to think much about it, but the actual act of doing it has got you moving, and it's distracting the brain again. And again, the longer you're distracted, the more your brain will stop telling the body to produce adrenaline. The less adrenaline you produce, the more that you can think clearly. Because the sad truth of it is when the body goes into its fight or flight response, because it's producing this amount of adrenaline and it's preparing us to move fast, it needs to conserve energy, and it does that by shutting down what it decides or what it considers to be non-essential processes. And unfortunately for us, problem solving is one of those processes that shuts down first, because as far as the brain is concerned, we've already made our decision. We're either going to stand and fight or we're going to run away. But then obviously this is based on our ancestry and our genetics and DNA and everything else. We've not really evolved as human beings from this original process. And the truth of the matter is we rarely need to stand and fight now. What we really need to do is problem solve our way out of the situation and find the best solution moving forward. So once we've started to do something that's distracting our mind, the adrenaline's not pumping through our body anymore, problem solving is coming back a little bit, we can then start to think a bit clearly. So my next tip number 3, is to write it down. Now this doesn't have to be grammatically correct. No one else has to see this. You can get rid of it when you're finished with it. What you're trying to do, or what you're going to do, is literally let your brain vomit onto a piece of paper. And just everything that you're thinking about, everything that's bothering you, everything that's buzzing around in your brain, all the things that you have got crowding you, write down on a piece of paper. The minute they are out of your head and on a piece of paper, you will already start to feel better. And then when you can see them on a piece of paper, you can start to make sense of them. When it's all crashing around in your head, there's no space, there's nowhere to think, there's no room to move. And so once you've got them on paper, you can start to look at them. And one strategy that I like to use, once I've got this far and I've written my, everything that's going out, is I look at what I've got on my list and all the things that I have absolutely no control over, like things outside of my remit, like the politics that are going on or situations in other countries or anything like that that's causing me stress. They're the kind of things that I just put a line through, because I can't change them. I don't have the power, or I don't have the power in this present moment. I can use my vote and I can use my voice and everything else. But right now, in this moment, while I'm feeling anxious, I don't have the power to change that. And so I cross it off, and what I'm left with is things in my life that I have control over. And they're the things that I can start to do to manage the way that I'm feeling and the way that I'm living. And so once you've then got this list in front of you and you're in a calmer place and you can see what you've got to deal with, my advice is to get a sheet of paper. On the left hand side, write down all the things that are worrying you, and on the right hand side, start to break them down into things that you can do to move forward on that, because quite often these things will seem overwhelming, but when you break them down into smaller steps, it becomes much more manageable, and you can feel in control. And then every day moving forward, you can be doing something to manage these worries that you have. And that leads me on to my 4th one, which is come up with a plan. So once you've done this and you can see what you need to do, then it's about looking at the tasks that you've broken down and working out how you're going to do something about them. And it might be that you need to prepare differently, or you need to maybe look at the way that you organise your life, and it might be the way that you need to sometimes hand over some tasks to other people because the pressure is just too much. It might be that the overwhelm that you're feeling is because you yourself are putting yourself under unrealistic pressure. It could be that you don't have the coping skills that you need to do something else, and so it's about knowing when to ask for support, and whether that support is from family and friends or whether it's from another agency or a support organisation, only you will know. And it's about looking that when you've worked through those first 4 points and you're nice and calm and the body is no longer buzzing with all the symptoms of anxiety, your problem solving skills will now have resumed back to normal. And so this is the time to, once you've looked at the problems that you're facing, or the worries that are causing you to feel anxious, and once you've broken them down so that you can see them in a nice clear list, and you can start to break them down into small manageable tasks, and then you can plan how you're going to overcome the issues that you're dealing with, then it's about time to going inward and asking yourself where all these emotions are coming from. And some really useful questions are things like, is it true? You know, is the thing that you're worrying about actually true? Or is it just your perception of something? You know, could you have misunderstood something? Could you be putting yourself at the middle of a problem that doesn't actually exist? Or why are you worried about what someone will say? You know, is it because you feel that you've mishandled a situation? Is it because you feel that you aren't as worthy as them? You know, is it because you are scared of them or they hold a power over you? These are all really good questions to ask, you know. And then that follows on, why do you need that person's approval? You know, this is your life. And surely the only person that you need, whose approval you need, is yours, because you're the one that has to face yourself every day. And so then it's about understanding that while you're worrying about what people are thinking about you or what people might say about you, you're actually giving them power over your life. And so the next question is why? Why are you giving all these people so much power over your life and how you feel about yourself? And then you know, other questions that come up are, why are you using all this energy worrying over something that might not happen? What is it that you're scared of? What can you do in the future to stop these situations occurring again? Then the other one is, do I need support? Have I looked at what is going on in my life, and the situation that I'm trying to deal with is more than I can handle on my own? And so then it's about, where do I find that support? And then it's about understanding that all of these questions, once you understand why you're being triggered and why you're feeling so anxious, then you can start to do something about it. And at first, I mean, this is self-discovery, and this is why a lot of people find changing their mindset difficult, because at first the answers to some of these questions might be a little bit uncomfortable. But this is how you break through all the issues that have been holding you back up to now. And it's about having the support to break through in a safe environment. And the more that you understand about who you are and what you believe and how you're feeling, the more you can manage your own emotions and the way that you're processing information. And then if you feel that you need help working on your decision making or your problem solving skills, or maybe you need to do some work around boosting your self-confidence so that you have faith in the fact that you will make the right decisions, then maybe that's the time that you can look for a coach, or you look for a self-help group. And if you're feeling overwhelmed regularly, then maybe this is the time that you reach out to family and friends. Or if it's becoming quite severe, then obviously your doctor has to be the next step. And the thing is, this is the time then, when you've gone through all of those 5 steps and you're getting to the stage where you are calmer and you are in a position where you can get to know yourself, this is then when meditation might be useful for you. When you start to spend time when you're not stressed and you're not anxious, getting to know yourself, spending time in quiet reflection, allowing the thoughts to arise, and then questioning what it is about those thoughts that may cause you anxiety in the future. And the thing is, anxiety is a beast. You know, there is no way that anybody could deny how debilitating anxiety can be. You know, it can absolutely cripple your life. But there are some very simple strategies that you can put in place. Anxiety can be tamed. And the way that we tame anxiety is about reclaiming control over our life. It's about returning to the present moment and understanding what we can control, and then taking absolute control over those things so that we are leading our life forward and not being led by it. So I really hope that this has cleared up some facts for you. If you are looking for support around anxiety or self-confidence or anything else, and you want to get in touch, or you've got any questions, please, you can message me. You can contact me through my website on simplybe.org.uk. and I will answer any questions that I can. And if I can't answer them, I will signpost you to someone who can. The thing is, especially when you're feeling anxious, that reaching out can be so scary. It can just feel like the straw that's going to break the camel's back. But the minute that you do that, the minute you start to take control of your life and the way that you're feeling and asking for the support that you need, the pressure will be off you. You will start to feel so relieved. And yes, like I said, the journey ahead isn't going to be easy, but with the right support, you will be able to manage your anxiety and ditch it for good. So I really, really hope that you found something useful in this. Like I say, please get in touch. I love to hear from you. I love your feedback. You can get in touch with me via the website, and my next podcast will be out next Wednesday. I hope you'll join me. Take care, and thank you for listening.